This week, London Real meets UFC fighter Dan Hardy.
I'm not an athlete, I'm a fighter that's trying to be a martial artist.
His wins and his losses.
That's it, I'm done. I'm not enjoying it anymore. This is not fun for me anymore. I'm not getting anything out of it, I'm just getting damaged.
He talks the spirit world.
The thing is, like, ayahuasca doesn't necessarily do anything to change the person. It just helps the person understand who they are.
And introduces the wolf heart.
They want to feed the wires into my heart so they can measure the second heartbeat. So they can then burn it.
London Real presents Dan Hardy, Uncut.
Every subject's on the table, so feel free to ask away.
All right, let's talk psychedelics a little bit.
Okay.
We, about 2 weeks ago, we released an episode called DMT, Before and After, and we basically filmed here with myself and an ayahuasca filmmaker our thoughts on DMT. We went and smoked DMT. We came back and told people what happened. And then about a week later, I released a training video of me training with an MMA fighter named Peter Irving, just me kicking pads and stuff. And,
Yeah.
and somebody tweeted, they're like, wait a second, you do psychedelics and then you want to beat the living shit out of something? And I was like, yeah, they go hand in hand, in my opinion. But can you explain why you wanted to go drink ayahuasca? And then after you drank ayahuasca, you went back into the cage and got another win. And can you explain that to people? Is there something strange there? Or is that...
It's difficult. It's very difficult to explain ayahuasca to someone that's never like had a psychedelic experience. I mean, how do you explain psychedelia? It's out there. But the thing is, like, ayahuasca doesn't necessarily do anything to change the person. It just helps the person understand who they are so they can make the changes themselves. So, like, I still like fighting. I still feel aggressive and get angry, and the psychedelic experiences have not changed that. They just help me understand it and help me distinguish between that cross chatter between the different parts of my brain, where the reptilian brain's going, yeah, go and hit him, he deserves it, and my higher consciousness is like, no, come on, no one's gonna like that. That's the stupid thing to do, and everyone's gonna be upset, and you're gonna look like the asshole. So like now I can hear this cross chatter, and I can choose which one's the best. Whereas before, everything was fighting. It was all fighting, and they were the decisions that I was making without thinking about it. So all the ayahuasca ceremonies did was just help me connect with the different parts of my personality and help me understand what each part needs. What do I need to do to feed reptile, and what is my higher consciousness going to need to level up again to keep evolving.
And you talked about you want to get more in touch with the reptilian part of your brain, because I think you even said when you're in a fight and you're in your reptilian brain is the perfect thing. Almost like you said, no mind earlier in that Tom Cruise movie. And do you think psychedelics or meditation is a way to get there further?
No doubt. Yeah, there are different ways of doing it, obviously, but like for me, psilocybin is one of the most powerful and useful tools for that kind of thing. And Terence McKenna talks a lot about how the integration of psilocybin into the diet affected people's edge and depth perception, so they were more able to survive
and hunt. And this is part of the stoned ape theory and
exactly.
Everything. I'm just curious, have you ever trained on low doses, and have you ever noticed that?
I have.
Okay.
I have.
Interesting.
And I'm every subject's on the table, so feel free to ask away. And I have an interest in actually trying it during a fight. I would like a gram and a half to see the difference. But then again, that might be an unfair advantage. You never know.
Is it legal? Is it illegal?
I'm sure it's not on the banned list.
I'm sure it's not on the banned
list.
Because no one, I bet they wouldn't even know what it was.
They just think you were crazy for doing it. I think
it's
like,
fascinating.
Does it affect like your respiratory system or your heart rate or anything like that?
No, not at all.
I had a psilocybin experience a few months ago, and I remember looking at my iPhone because I was playing music, and it was all of a sudden in HD, and it was in the first 30 minutes, and I noticed all the little details. And I was like, that's what Terrence is talking about. Low dose makes you a better hunter. hunter. Medium dose, you don't think about hunting anymore.
Yeah,
So there's a fine line.
And high dose, heroic dose.
Yeah, 5
is-
grams.
Yeah, that's
Is
where
that what
I
it's
go.
known as, heroic dose?
Heroic
Yeah.
dose. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Terence McKenna's theory is high doses vary infrequently, and I completely agree with him. So if it's psilocybin, 5 grams dried, go really big, learn about yourself, apply that maybe in your life for the next 6 months, as opposed to let's take some mushrooms and go to a rock concert. Now, not that I have anything wrong with that, but also Terence says do it at your house alone in the dark, and I kind of agree with that too. Of course, ayahuasca is kind of a corollary on that because you're doing it with a shaman in a group
Yep.
in the jungle. So
Generally.
you have experience with both. Is there one you prefer, or do you find one slightly different? I find ayahuasca to be more avatar for me. It's
Yeah.
like more about the community and how I love
That's
and
in a
feel.
heroic dose then?
I mean,
Ayahuasca is always a heroic dose.
you're usually given enough where you're going to go there. But I just find I'm more of like Mother Earth and community, and psilocybin.
Yeah.
I still have parts of that, but I'm sorry, I'm interviewing you.
No, no.
What are your experiences when those two? There's no diet with psilocybin either, so
Yeah, well, that doesn't mean there shouldn't be.
okay.
You know, with ayahuasca, it's much less of a frequent thing. I think I've had 6 ceremonies now, 3 of which were in Peru, and they each one's very, very different. But I prefer psilocybin. I prefer it if I'm honest, because I'm much more of a solitary person. I like to have a powerful experience like that on my own, where I've got a hold of the circumstance that I'm in. And I mean, we did a ceremony a little while back, and there was a guy in the corner that had a bottle of water, and it was one of those like shitty plastic bottles that's not got any structure. And he had one of those, and he had the wrapper on it. And just that, 4 hours into the ceremony, he reached over to grab it, and as he's undoing it, not even thinking about it, he's undoing it to take a drink. The crackling and rustling immediately just
brought
pulled
you
me
back to
away from
reality.
where I was at, and so to a certain extent there is a benefit in having that in those ceremonies, because it also brings up other things that you need to assess. You need to, I did a ceremony recently with 32 people.
Wow.
And it was, there were families there, and it was awesome, and it was such a cool environment. First time I've had a day ceremony as well.
Really?
Because usually they're at night indoors. This was daytime outside.
In what country?
I'd rather not say.
I didn't even know they did daytime ceremonies. I
Yeah.
just assumed it was always nighttime. So.
Yeah.
Do you feel a group energy? I've never done it in groups.
Yeah.
You feel like a collective.
Yeah.
Okay.
And different groups and different environments are very unique as well. Like my experiences in Peru were, that was much more of a solitary experience, because I had space. We were in it was a big wooden building called a maloca, and we were effectively, most of it was net, so we were effectively right outside anyway. And it was in the jungle. It was silent apart from all the wildlife, and I had plenty of space. And in Peru, obviously, it's very accessible, so they just give you a mugful, and you just drink and drink and drink, and then there's a second dose if you want it, and a third dose, and they really push the envelope in Peru. Whereas here it's a little bit more of have a shot and see how you go.
Okay.
But they're different, and the medicine's different every time as well, depending on who's made it, and I mean, there must be so many different things that change it. But for me, with the psilocybin, I can spend a weekend with psilocybin and have just a power weekend. Just feel like I've leveled up. It's like a video game. I've just jumped a level, because my whole weekend becomes about the ceremony, and I don't wake up. See, this is the thing with the party thing. There are circumstances, I'll go hiking. I'll have a gram or two and go hiking, and just take my shoes off and stand in the water and just touch the leaves and just be connected, be grounded. And it's very, very good for that. It helps me appreciate what I don't see right in front of my face sometimes. Whereas with the heroic dose, I have it 11:30 at night, and it's coming on at 12:30 or 1 o'clock, and I have my music set up, and I've got my crystals and my candles, my joints rolled, and I'm ready to go, and I've got everything I need. So then for the first 2 or 3 hours, I'm not present anyway. And then as it starts to come out, I have a little routine. I like to, first thing I do when I'm starting to connect with my space again, I'm starting to become more conscious. I'll sit up, I'll kneel, and I'll sit in front of a mirror. And this is where I start working on this connection with reptile thing, because the weird thing is, when I look at myself in the mirror during one of these ceremonies, I don't recognize myself as such. I understand that this is the body that I'm in, but I don't really feel like I have any necessary ownership over it. It's just the vessel that's helping me experience this life. So I don't see myself, I don't recognize myself until I look right into the black in my eyes. And then it's like, oh, there I am. It's really weird, and I get it now because I've experienced it altered. But before, I'd never, I look at myself and I can look at my house, my hand, and, you know, and I recognize myself, but with those situations, it's very different.
Because your ego is so dissolved.
Yeah, and because you're so aware of all the extremities of the reality that we're in as well. I can't think of a better way of explaining it. But
And this is an experience you can repeat, which is unlike ayahuasca. It's more of a crapshoot.
Yeah.
You don't know who's around you, but when you're at home with psilocybin, this is a kind of a pattern you can
and I can focus my intention. And Terence McKenna really helps with the setup of it as well. So like my day, like before set, and I always select the day. I would never wake up on the day and be like, okay, I've got nothing to do today. I'm gonna eat some mushrooms. I like to plan it out, so I make sure I've got the weekend clear and that there's gonna be nobody bugging me, and you know. And I wake up on the Saturday morning and I'll do like a Bikram yoga session, or I'll run. I like to get a good sweat and a good workout, so my body feels very open and very clean. And then I'll have 2 small vegan meals, just something light. And then I'll fast for 4 or 5 hours, and then have them at about 11 o'clock. And then, so by 1 or 2 o'clock, I'm right where I need to be. 3 or 4 o'clock, I'm sitting in front of the mirror, smoking a joint, like thinking about the things that I've experienced. And marijuana, they go hand in hand. And I know a lot of people talk about ayahuasca and marijuana being very separate, and I don't necessarily feel the same. Okay. Which we can talk about as well. But yeah, but there's kind of a process, and then I start to feel hungry, and then it's Brazil nuts and bananas. That's my post ceremony snack. But at this, I'm still very much in it. I mean, after a heroic dose, you feel it for 6, 7, 8 hours. But I've got Pink Floyd on, or my girlfriend Lacey's got me into Future Primitive recently, and if you've not heard Future Primitive, it's DMT music. It's amazing.
Okay. What's the heroic dose for you?
5's good.
Okay.
5's good. I've tried more, but it didn't really enhance it in any way.
It's interesting how you talk about the low dose on your hikes, because when you take a big dose, it's just so much information that you're not really in the present anymore for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
So you can't appreciate the little things.
Yeah.
I play Terence when I'm coming back down, and
Okay.
I play the same Terence track I've listened to 10 times, and I hear completely different things.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah. But it's just my little ritual.
Yeah. See, I like Pink Floyd was made for psilocybin, in my opinion. I mean, I can listen to Dark Side of the Moon 10 times through and cry through all of it, and it's overwhelming. But at the same time, like it depends on what I'm trying to achieve, because it's not like I'm doing it for fun. Because I always get anxious, and it's always like, okay, this could be a rough one tonight. Because sometimes it is. Sometimes it takes you to a place that you might be hiding from.
You should be scared before you do this. I mean, people say they're scared before an ayahuasca ceremony. I'm like, you should be scared.
But that's part of the respect, and that's the most important thing. It's the approach to it. It's the respect. So like my weekend being dedicated to it. So my Saturday, I like cleanse myself, and I make sure my body's clean and empty and open, ready for the and then I get 5 grams and grind it up and mix it into orange juice, like nice organic fresh orange juice, and then 30 minutes later, it's like it's starting to speak.
You're quite open about this stuff, but you're still a UFC fighter and a UFC representative. I mean, you're going to be doing TV and things like that for them. Is that a conscious decision you made, or look, I am going to be out of the psychedelic closet?
I just don't. We were actually talking about this earlier in Camden. I don't see the point in being closed with anything. Because my intention with life is to have as much experience as possible, to connect with as many people as possible. So, like if I hadn't have said, oh yeah, I went to Peru and had ayahuasca, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys. So, unless someone comes and takes me away and locks me up, I don't really see any reason why not to be. And all I'm saying then is I'll talk about it and tell everybody about it, and you just got to come and fetch me if they lock me up. That's my deal. So
Fair enough.
I don't mind talking about it. It's not, as Terence said, if you hide your stash, you're doing the man's work for him. And I'm not doing the man's work for
We
him.
had Rick Doblin sitting there who runs MAPS, which is a foundation started in '86 that's been trying to get MDMA legal for PTSD sufferers and stuff. And that's the last bit of advice he gave is like, if everyone just came out of the closet and told your coworker that I do this and it's okay and everything, that was the one thing he said.
Yeah.
More than politicians or anything.
Yeah.
So
The problem is we have to work so hard right now. It's just like mixed martial arts. We had to work so hard in the beginning to establish some kind of respect for it, some kind of acceptance, because it was kind of out of the mainstream and people weren't sure about it, and there was blood and and it's the same with this, like psilocybin. And I always try and say psilocybin or mushrooms. I don't use magic mushrooms.
I hate that phrase.
Yeah.
I hate that phrase.
The problem is, like, you say magic mushrooms and everyone thinks, oh,
They giggle.
You down it with a beer and go and have a laugh, and it's to be respected. It's a medicine and there's a process to it, So like, as I was saying, so like as it's starting to wind down, then I've got my notepad out and I'm drawing and writing and making as many notes as I can while it's still fresh in my mind. And then I'll go and meditate, and that will take me very much back into that space again until 5, 6 in the morning when the sun's starting to come up. And then I like to do kettlebells or go and run a trail, because at this point it's starting to wind down. So you're about the same. You're about as altered as you would be if you had a couple of gram and a half. So by the time I'm out at the trail that I want to run, I'm right where I need to be to run this trail and feel like the Hulk. It's really weird because I run up the trail and I've got my music playing and I go through different phases of listening to stuff that's really heavy. Like I like Meshuggah. They're very like heavy, like they're a Swedish metal band, and it's like math metal, so it's like really weird beats and stuff, and it just it's just constant. It keeps me going. And again, Future Primitive is a good one to use. A Massive Attack. I never thought I would run to Massive Attack, but I use that quite a bit now. And then like binaural beats, they're quite good. It's just like you can get different types that communicate with different brainwaves, but that kind of stuff's very good. It's just one more thing I can shut out is the noise from the outside, the birds and the people talking and stuff, and I just get down this trail at full speed, and sometimes I eat shit, and that's part of the fun, but I can feel I feel so aware and so connected. I know where my foot's going next, and I know that when it lands there, the kind of stability that it's got, and there's much more of a presence there than I experience normally, which I don't get that connectedness in any other experience other than, I never got that connectedness before I had these experiences, and now I'm aware of it. I can do it to a certain extent, but not to the same extent as I could if I did have some in my system, for sure.
And how often are you doing these things? Is it very infrequently, or does it depend?
It varies. I've been jumping around quite a bit recently. It's been like kind of ayahuasca, San Pedro, psilocybin, ayahuasca, just kind of back and forth, but at least once a month.
Do you think you get desensitized to it?
No.
Or your tolerance grows towards it?
With psilocybin, there is a tolerance, which is, I don't know the science behind it, but I know it's about a week. But out of respect, I wouldn't do it back to back anyway, which is why I'm kind of on the fence about DMT, which would be another good thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Because it is synthesized, it goes through a process. You don't earn it like you do ayahuasca.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
I found the DMT to be I call it the crack cocaine of psychedelics, which is a horrible thing to say, but I was up and back down, but I didn't have any deep, meaningful lessons of things I needed to change in my life. I felt like I was shown something and then I was back. So I honestly wasn't rushing back to it because I didn't feel like I had to do that pain and do that hard work.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, with ayahuasca, there's an understanding of the process that comes with it. So, the ayahuasca diet, which is very, very restrictive. If you stick to it,
It's hard.
as they want you to, it is a very restrictive diet. And then there's the ceremonial aspect of it, which And I don't like all the paraphernalia that comes with it, I'll be honest, because you see this quite consistently in ceremonies, and particularly Westerners gravitate towards the paraphernalia, all like the Quechuan stuff and the Peruvian, and they've got like a blanket in front of them with all kinds of trinkets and crystals and sage and, you know, just piled on top. And it doesn't annoy me. I mean, it's to each their own, but I do feel like that kind of makes a little bit of a religion out of it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the actual ceremonial aspect itself, and the process of, you know, the Icaros singing, and the shaman coming around working on different people, and the ceremonies I've been doing recently, there have been, you know, 2, sometimes 3 or 4 people that go around and work with different people in the group, because I've been in like very concentrated like ayahuasca groups, and they're like, you know, there's like, you know, apprentices, and it's a very, very cool network, and everyone's helping each other. Whereas with Peru, it was the shaman and the people that were,
Right.
you know, that were the patients effectively.
So you could have multiple people coming over and working on you, and you like that.
I did like that because everyone offers something different. I mean, there was a guy in one of them that just plays the didgeridoo, and it was awesome. I mean, like as soon as he started playing that didgeridoo, it took me to an entire different place, and it was really, really energizing. And as soon as he stopped, it was like I kind of sat up and started to look for where the sound had gone. I know that sounds stupid, but you know what I mean. You kind of like, you know, especially because the room's pitch black, you can't see a thing. But the ceremonial aspect of it is important. The respect that you have to give the plant, you know.
We talked about it with Graham Hancock, and he thinks there's a very strong link between religion and psychedelics.
Yeah.
And the experience that you get is a religious one, even if you don't believe in sort of traditional views of gods.
Yeah. But you see, so like when somebody says religion, that is like saying Walmart. You know what I mean? Like Catholicism is Asda. Because basically what they've done is they've taken what they think people want and they've packaged it in a way that's accessible. So you can go and get your fix once a week at church, and you can be nice to those people for those 2 hours, and then you can yell at them from your car the next day. You know what I mean? And there's no real integration with religion. Whereas it's a spiritual experience. But for me, spirituality is a personal journey anyway. So I don't need to go to the same building once a week and speak to the same people once a week and read the same book as those people to get this, because that might not be right for me. But everyone's kind of told that that's what's right to do, so that's what they do.
Well,
So
Terrence always said that the beauty of it is that it was an experience, and it was pure that way.
Yeah.
And so no one can tell you that this is, you just have it, and it's yours and personal.
exactly. And if you go through most of the, you know, I mean, Graham Hancock's the best person to talk to about this. But if you go through like most of the religious books and ancient cultures and stuff, there's a heavy presence of what could potentially be psychedelics. I mean, in any environment, and every culture's got their own altering substance, you know.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in the Western world, we gravitate to alcohol, nicotine, and caffeine, which really don't do a great deal for you. Well, alcohol
Certainly nothing constructive, really.
No, exactly. I mean, caffeine can be used as a good training tool if you're using it right, but a Starbucks a day is not going to help you at all. And you know, you might enjoy it, but other than that, it's not going to elevate you in any way. Whereas, you know, you go to South America and there's ayahuasca and salvia and mushrooms, and you know, and there's iboga and numerous amounts of it. And then, you know, you go way out to the you know, the Far East, and they're doing the same kind of things with, like, you know, self-flagellation and meditation and fasting and, you know, vision quests. This is another thing that people don't talk about a lot. I read a book called Grandfather by Tom Brown Jr., and it was about a Native American medicine man that kind of taught him the skills that he had, all of the survival skills, and some of the stories about this guy, like going on vision quests where he's like wandering for 3 weeks with no clothes or anything.
What is a vision quest?
It's basically just a kind of isolation. You just kind of you basically cast out of your tribal group. You're sent away into the wilderness to survive, to fend for yourself. Occasionally you'll have something to keep you warm. Occasionally you would have a knife, but the hardcore way of doing it is just to wander out into the desert with your bare ass and figure it out.
It's like Batman Begins.
Yeah, exactly.
They train shamans that way a little bit in Peru, with the young ones that just like go, and you come back for some ayahuasca, and then you go. from a young
and
age.
give them little doses every day and leave them on their own as well. And plant dietas. That's another thing that again, see, there's so much to this culture. It's not just like, magic mushrooms and DMT. There's like a whole wealth of stuff that's all connected. And like the plant dietas, where you would diet a plant for a month, 2 months, 3 months, and this is like being on the ayahuasca diet for a prolonged period of time. No sugar, no salt, no sex, no spice, no fun, none of the stuff that people kind of reach for to make them comfortable.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you would focus on one particular plant, and you would then integrate that into your diet with the hopes of taking on the lessons from that plant. And if you think of the variety and nature of plants that we've got, there must be so many more, psychedelic plants out there, and so many plants that you could just integrate into your diet that you would glean something from. Even if it's just like marijuana, and it just helps you be nice to people for the day.
Yeah, you talked about how that some people say it's a female energy, and so is ayahuasca, and they don't combine. Mm-hmm. Do you agree or do you disagree?
Well, this was something that kept coming up for me because I don't ever like to feel like I'm doing something because I want to do it, solely because I want to do it. I don't eat Chinese food because it doesn't do anything for me, other than the fact that I like to eat it until I've finished it and I regret it. So I don't want to be the guy that smokes marijuana because he likes to smoke it. I want to smoke it because it's a medicine, and I have that respect for it. And people get away from this quite a lot with all kinds of teacher plants, and it's listening to your inner guardian and knowing when it's right to say I don't need it right now.
Well, Graham Hancock said he was basically abusing it for 24 years.
Yeah,
but will you not eat a chocolate bar?
I don't.
But will you not have sex?
Oh, I would have sex. Yeah.
But that's the same thing, isn't it?
But it's not, no, because sex, one, is a very organic thing, and two, is a good way of connecting to that euphoric space that you get from psychedelics and connecting to the reptilian brain. So there's a lot going on during sex.
So it's not just for pure enjoyment.
No.
You think you learn something from it as well?
Yeah, for sure. If it's with the right person, anyway.
Back to marijuana really quick, and then I'm gonna start talking wolves.
Okay.
So so you think marijuana should be something that's taken seriously and used as a plant teacher, as opposed to just self-medicating?
Yeah.
It's very big in the U.S. now. I think we don't have a good, like, what was it? Some fighter tested positive, and he was like, everyone smokes weed in California.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Oh yeah. It's very widespread. I felt really bad for Pat Healy, he beat me right early on in my career.
He won $150,000 of bonuses.
Oh yeah,
and then he failed his test and he had to give it back. And you've got to think, 150 grand to a guy that's just, I don't know how many fights in he is, but maybe he's earning 15 and 15 or something like that. That's so much money.
He deserved that money as well, because he's been at it for a long time. But the thing is, the most frustrating thing is that like a week or two later, then they adjusted the limits. So then he wouldn't have tested positive.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I know they've adjusted them recently from 50 to 150 of whatever unit it is.
Does that bother you, or do you just kind of say that's just the way it is right now, and I have to work within those guidelines when it comes to state commissions and stuff like that?
It is what it is. I'm not a part of the UFC because I have to be. I'm there because I want to be, and there's a set of rules that are laid out to be a part of that, and I choose to abide by those rules. And I understand that there are drug testing. Whether I agree with it or not is beside the point. Because I'm choosing to be in that environment, I accept what's on the table.
And with marijuana, you just try to treat it as a teacher and respect it.
Yeah, and going back to the ayahuasca thing, the ayahuasca diet, whatever's written on it, is not necessarily written for everybody. It's not Lacey does a lot of yoga, and her experience with ayahuasca is that if she doesn't keep some salt in her diet, she's dehydrated all the time, and then obviously that affects the experience. So it's got to be adaptable, but you've got to be honest with yourself. You've got to be like, I need salt because I need salt, not I need salt because these chips are kind of bland. You know what I mean? And that's the difference. It's not what you do, it's the intention. And my intention is not to smoke marijuana because I want to smoke it. My intention after a ceremony is to smoke it because it helps me put all the pieces into place.
And how long have you walked this path? You were never like a Nottingham lad that would go to the pub and get in fights and then go and eat bad food, or?
I did for a couple of years in my teens, yeah, because I stopped drinking at just before I turned 18. So it's 13 years now. So I kind of had 2 years where I did that, like 15 to 17. I just kind of put my foot on the gas and just went nuts, and
And you made a conscious decision to stop
Yeah, it just
because of your career.
it wasn't suiting me. I was making bad decisions because alcohol tends to bring out the reptile in everybody.
And makes, like, it's the ultimate bad decision maker.
Yeah, it is.
Alcohol.
Yeah, but that's the reptilian brain. He's the bad decision maker.
The one you want to get closer to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can make the right decisions in certain situations.
Yeah. Well, he's very useful. He's very, very useful in some circumstances.
In critical, crucial
Yeah.
situations.
But I've got to know when to listen to him and when to not.
Yeah, when to turn him on.
Yeah.
When to turn him off.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
exactly.
you were down in Peru, and I remember you saw like a spirit animal, and it was almost like a premonition because it was a wolf.
Kind of weird, right?
If you like alternative history, which is what I do, then expect everything that you say to be turned over forensically, very, very closely, by large numbers of hostile academics.